What is up, my dude and dudettes, and welcome back to TellerTube. In today's video, we're going to be looking at the subreddit r/choosingbeggars. If you're new to my channel, be sure to subscribe if you guys want me to continue making these videos for you. And with that being said, sit back, relax, and enjoy the video.
Wait, so I have to put my money on the gift cards?
Okay, I work at a popular redhead fast food empire, and since our lobby is closed due to the COVID-19, all orders must be taken at the drive-thru. This puts me by our pickup window and listening to orders over the headset. Enter our star of the story, who I will lovingly call Karen. She drives up to the speaker and asks our drive-thru person if we have any gift certificates. Karen:
Do you all have gift certificates?
Coworker: No, we do not. We do offer gift cards, however.
Great, can I have 15 of them?
Go ahead and pull up to the window. This is where it's mostly paraphrased, as I didn't hear the whole conversation from my position. Policy requires our manager to handle any gift card purchases and reloads. As my manager is getting the cards together, she asks how much she wants on each card and who they are for.
I need $2 on each card, they're for my employees.
Manager: Alright, so that comes down to $30 total.
Wait, I thought I didn't have to pay for them.
Well, that's how the money gets put on the cards. You need to purchase the funds.
That's ridiculous. I don't have to pay for them. I'm a business owner and I'm struggling because of the corona.
Well, I'm sorry, but we can't just give these to you on the house. The rest was tuned out as another person came through our drive-thru and I had to help fill an order. From what I saw, Karen drove off without her gift cards. Why on God's green earth would you give your hardworking employees $2 gift cards for a fast food place? I'm glad that lady left without purchasing. Her employees deserve better. Karen, how else did you think the money was gonna get on those cards, donkey? Choosing Beggar lives rent-free with numerous handouts and then complains. This is an old, resolved story with a happy ending, but I've just received some awful news and I can't sleep, so I'm writing about it here. The cast: me, hubby, Choosing Beggar, who I will call K. Alright, so this happened about 3 years ago. I got this book called The Go-Giver as a wedding present, and in there was this nugget of wisdom that basically said, give what you have, it doesn't need to be money to help. And I got this idea into my head for something like a fostering dogs program, but for my friends who were having a rough time. Kay was my first and only attempt at this. Kay, at the time, was supposedly working 50 hours a week, making $10 per hour as a prep cook in a big city about an hour south of hubby and I. I've been in the culinary industry since I was 18, so by this point I had a few connections and knew my way around the job market. We also happened to have a spare room. We invited Kay to come live with us. We had stipulations though. You have to be actively looking for work, if not working. You don't need to be our maid or anything, but if you can help with the dishes and let the dogs out now and then, we would appreciate it. Don't bring your drug addict friends over. Don't bring drugs into our home. Between 10 p.m. and 6 a.m., keep the noise to a minimum, no smoking, it's in our lease and we could be evicted. In exchange, Kay got to live in our guest room rent-free, free utilities, free meals, and groceries, both my husband and myself getting him interviews at our respective jobs, and the ability to save up to move into his own place without spending money on rent or groceries. Oh, and we also helped him get his license. We set his foster time at 3 months. He claimed to be super hardworking, and I'd known him since high school, so I believed him. Right before he moved in with us, literally the night before, he claimed that his 2 best friends came over and forced him to spend his $1,500 worth of savings for the move on cocaine, so they partied all night. He was going to use that money to get a U-Haul to move up to us. Instead, we ended up paying for the U-Haul. He seemed very distraught. So I reached out to those friends on Facebook and told them basically that he was struggling to get on his feet, and if they were his friends, they would be supportive of that and not be forcing him to spend money on drugs he doesn't even do. Oof, I was naive. The friends apparently got really mad and cut off contact. He didn't know why. A month in, he brought it up to me and I mentioned that I reached out. He lit into me and said that was a mean and heartless thing for me to have done. I'll agree that it wasn't my place, but he was playing such a good victim card that I genuinely thought he needed someone to stand up for him. In the first month of staying with us, I tried to get him hired at my job, plus with 2 other friends' restaurants. He blew off all 3 interviews. My husband got him an interview at his company. Kay showed up without his resume. A month and a half in, I gave him a new deadline. You need to get your resume done and printed so you can start looking for work. His response was that I was putting too much pressure on him and it was triggering his anxiety. He had 3 months total and he had just been sitting on his butt for half of that. Then I started finding weird things. He was supposed to help with gas since his parents were sending him money when we had to drive him around. He inexplicably never had any handy. Then I started finding his stash of beer cans that he was hiding in the backyard, along with all of his cigarette butts. I confronted him about it and he just doubled down on the lies. At 2 months, I started hearing from a mutual friend all the crap he was saying about us, how apparently our rules were too much. That in telling him he shouldn't be drinking so much while unemployed because that would make his depression worse, we were militant. In telling him he needed to shower more than once a month because he was starting to stink. And I mean stink, he also wouldn't brush his teeth. Riding in the car with him was agony. I was an a-hole. In asking him to keep the noise down at night, I was akin to a Nazi. He also said I was basically a slave driver asking him to clean my house in exchange for a room and board. Asking him to wash the dishes once a month equals a slave driver. Who knew? I was ready to kick his butt out then and there for being so ungrateful, but then it all seemed to pay off. He got a job, a really good job with a manager he seemed to love with benefits and great pay and room for growth. It was 3 weeks until his move out. Hubby and I started talking about how if we saw him turning things around, we'd extend his time and let him stay with us to keep saving since 3 weeks really wasn't that long. Then the hurricane hit. My dad offered to let hubby and I bring our dogs down to Miami to stay with him. His house, like ours, was hurricane-proof, but his was way more comfortable to hang out in the aftermath. Kay swore he would help me put up the shutters, get supplies, and set up the house. Not financially, I just needed the extra hands for all the lifting. The day came, and he slept all day. I got more than enough supplies for the 3 of us to have stayed there and been fine. But instead, I was going to leave it all there with Kay, minus 2 allergy-specific things for me. Kay threw a fit and started telling everyone who would listen that I was leaving him there to die. The hurricane didn't even hit our house, the power was out for 8 days, but there was 0 structural damage. But that's getting ahead of ourselves. We told him my dad wouldn't let us bring him, but he would be perfectly safe there, and we were leaving him with cash and my husband's car keys so he could evacuate if he needed to, or we could drive him to a shelter before we left. He opted to stay behind. I finished getting the house ready. At one point, I came inside to talk to my husband about needing help with a massive marble table outside that belonged to the landlord. I wanted to get it into the shed. Hubby and I both worked out and were really strong, but together we couldn't budge that table. So Kay overheard that and he went out after us and tried to do it himself. He ended up dropping it somehow and it broke into 3 giant pieces. Didn't say a word to us. Right before we left, I went outside for a final check and I saw it was broken. I asked him about it and it was all just, no excuses. I told him that's part of the apartment and it would come out of our deposit. He insisted he'd pay for it. I said, with what money? Because he was always broke when it came to gas. He left the kitchen and came back with $200. I explained it was marble and at least $800, but that wasn't the point. The point was that he was just going to hide it from us and let us think the hurricane did it. I told him to keep his money and we left. After 5 minutes into the drive, he calls to tell me he's decided to hitch a ride with some friends evacuating to Kansas. I asked why out of curiosity for what changed his mind. He responded really defensively saying,
I don't have to justify wanting to live.
True, but again, the hurricane wasn't even tracking to hit our area. It was going to be uncomfortable for a few days, but not life or death. Whatever, his call. I wished him luck and didn't think about it. The hurricane comes and goes. After about a week, we make our way back to our home. The moment we got into the house, I just had a feeling something wasn't right. Everything was exactly how we left it, maybe a little hotter since the AC had been off for a week, but nothing huge, just a gut feeling. I usually wouldn't go into Kay's room, but my gut man. So I went in. On the bed we'd loaned him was a box. On top of that box was another box. On top of that box was a third box. On top of that box was a cage with a friggin' baby ferret in it and was starving without water and had crap dripping down the 3 boxes onto the bed. I kicked into action, I got the ferret out of the cage and into my tub without water in it because it was the only surface that was cool, and gave it some water. It was lethargic, but it was alive. Then I googled animal rescues and discovered a rescue that specifically takes ferrets. They gave me the address for the vet hospital to take it to, where they would pick it up. I took the ferret there, then I called Kay. I told him the next time he came to my house would be to get his stuff. It was bad enough that he was lying to us, breaking promises, being a drunken deadbeat, risking us getting evicted, talking crap behind our backs, and generally just being an ungrateful piece of crap. But my line is animal endangerment. Apparently, the friends he hitched a ride with were the cokeheads who had allegedly forced him to spend all of his money on them right before moving. Apparently they told him they could either take him or the ferrets, so he put the ferrets somewhere high up in case the area flooded. It's South Florida. Do you have any idea how hot that house had gotten during that week of no AC or electricity? It was an oven when we walked in. And for that particular hurricane, people all over South Florida were getting arrested for abandoning their animals when they evacuated. We should have reported them. Instead, we got the animal somewhere safe and gave them the contact information for where to find it. They never called back for it, and the ferret found a lovely home. He gave me this massive sob story about how he had nowhere to go, and me being me, I let him come back for his last 3 weeks. The day before he was supposed to move out, I said, "I haven't said anything because you told me not to pressure you, but your 3 months are over as of tomorrow. Will you need a ride to get to your new home?" He confessed that he thought we weren't going to hold him to the 3 months. After everything, there was no way we were giving him any type of extension. He ended up moving into a hotel. I did promise the story had a happy ending though. When he started with us, he was addicted to cocaine and an alcoholic. He was working oppressive hours, had no transportation, had an abusive roommate, made barely enough to pay his bills, and he felt like that was all life would ever be. When he left us, he had a great job with upward mobility, a strong group of supportive friends. He was going to AA meetings, and he was making more than he would have in Miami for at least 4 more years. He was in that hotel for 2 months before he got an apartment in a really nice area. He's been promoted to manager at a steakhouse near our old home, and he's dating someone. The last time we spoke was a few months ago where he apologized for how he handled everything and then he thanked us. In his words, we saved his life. Lessons learned all around. I learned not to take other people's lives on as my responsibility to fix. He learned he had some serious growing up to do. And I like to think his friends learned not to leave ferrets in strangers' houses during hurricanes. Oh my goodness. Wow. I mean, it's great to see an awesome ending to the story, but also, Chief, you were living there for free, and you couldn't even do little chores around the house.
Quit pressuring me, you're messing with my anxiety.
Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. If you did, smash that like button as it would really help me out. Subscribe to my channel so you can stay up to date with my latest videos, and I will see you guys in the next video. Peace.